Hello, and welcome to the show because you are now tuned into a brain spanking new Monday Night Live. That's right. AKA the Hangout stream, AKA the Chill stream, baby. All fired up, ready to have some fun for May 29th, 2023. Brought to you by yours truly, the man broadcasting from behind the curtain. You know who I am. Come on. Because if you don't know by now, you can visit www.livefreeliverich.com. Or there's another option. Simply Google this name and you can find out, tuts. Now, why do I feel like I'm forgetting something? Oh, yeah. Apparently, today is Memorial Day. I'm thinking to myself, okay, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. I have to say, your guess is about as good as mine at this juncture. But hey, at least people have an excuse to shovel more cheeseburgers down their gullets. Or veggie burgers, for that matter, depending on their level of activism. Maybe find the time during their busy lives to fire off a bottle rocket or two to commemorate those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Whatever. Tonight, I have some writing ideas to share with you, coming courtesy of a generous blogger. And speaking of which, I have a hot topic for discussion in regard to a blog post published by a world-renowned author. I also have some thrilling news for you guys, but, before I get into all that, let me just take a second to say hello to the chat. Very busy. Rachel Morley, how are you? How are you doing? You didn't ask me how I'm doing. You're first in line, but you didn't ask me. I want to say it. You know damn well what I want to say. I'm just waiting for you to ask. I see you're very, we're going to get to this in the chat. I see that you're very busy in the chat. We'll get to it. Hey, Ben. How you doing, stranger? Inside joke. And greener side of Sam. Hello. Hi, Sam. Hope all is well with you. Hi. I know I've been super MIA, but wanted to drop in and say I hope you're having a great night. Been MIA. I like the play on words there for one. That was probably unintentional on your part. MIA, but missed opportunity for the poet and didn't know it. Hope you're having a great day. MIA, but hope you're having a great day. All right, let's get into it. I like to take this time now and slide right into my first segment of the night where I like to shine a spotlight on some books. That's right. That are currently available or coming soon to an online store near you. Yes, it's true. First up tonight, we have from Steve Shoemaker. Provides me with a little checklist here. It says powerful mages, check. Ruthless assassins, check. Cunning thieves, check. Commanding warriors, check. Mysterious clerics, check. High stakes, you bet your ass, that's a check. Gnarly twists, we got a check there too. Political intrigue, if you have to, that's a check. Let's check it out. This is his book, In Pursuit of Wisdom. This is book 1 of the Dark World Saga by Steve Shoemake. I think that's Shoemaker. Hold on. We'll double check that on the Amazon page. Might have been a typo on my part. Nope. Says Shoemake. Says Shoemake on his Amazon, so we're going to run with it. All right, and there is the cover. Pretty snazzy looking cover, I have to say. If there is a God, why do bad things happen to good people? It is a timeless question, and one that hangs over all the people of Tenebrae, who have lost faith in a dark world. Against this backdrop is a quest for the famed staff of insight, capable of revealing truth to the one who holds it. In a world where deception, strife, hatred, cruelty, and betrayal are the everyday norms, imagine the power of a person who wielded such a staff. Every motivation revealed, every lie and half-truth exposed. It is an artifact blessed by the one true God, one of 3 artifacts of the ancients. This is a story of a young man of extraordinary skill coming of age, abandoned by his parents as a babe. He recognizes that the key to finding this ancient staff is to first find the answers to his own past. And it is those answers that lead him in pursuit of wisdom for himself and for all of Tenebrae. Never know how to pronounce that. $600, a whopper. It is a whopper of a novel, 654 pages of sword and sorcery, epic fantasy. Sword and sorcery with a side of epic fantasy. Is that what you had? Is that what you had tonight? I saw that. We're going to get to it too. I ain't going to overlook that. There it is. Yes. Listen. You know what I'm going to say. Not too shabby and not too crabby. Plenty of reason to be crabby, but nevertheless, not too crabby. Just medium crabby. Regular crabby. Regular amount of crabby. Who's up next? This comes from JLM Writes. JLM Writes, a benevolent entity, a killer asteroid, and a kid with a cell phone would change the world forever. We got some hashtags in there. little sci-fi superhero adventure with some steamy romance, friendship, humor, award-winning page-turner book recommendation with a little cozy on the end there. Cozy ending, perhaps? Let's check out Guardian, Into the Light of Day, a light, fun superhero novel for grown-ups with cinematic action, page-turning intrigue, and a flirty romance by J.L. Meredith. All right, so there's the cover. Now, a couple things. Let me just, before I get into this blurb here, I just want to say right off the bat, because now that I have the product page pulled up, I just want to say a couple things here. I was looking into this a little bit, and, well, for one, let me just check this. All right, this is, okay, for one, this is not, I know it may look it, but for one, this is not a graphic novel, okay? Even though this is superhero literature, okay? So this is in fact a novel, even though the cover kind of looks like it's set up as if it were to look like a comic book or a graphic novel. So for one, this is literature. So there's a little bit, you know, a little bit of a throw. It was throwing me off. The cover, for one, was kind of throwing me off a little bit. I have heard of superhero and read superhero novels before. There is such thing as superhero literature. Superheroes don't just exist in comic books. I understand that. But just the way that the product is kind of being presented, the book is being presented here, it at first glance, from a customer perspective or potential customer perspective, I'll say I thought that what I was looking at was either a comic book or a graphic novel, for one. For two, all this stuff that's down here, is pulled directly from the Amazon product page. So all of that was in the title. I don't know why all of that was in the title, because clearly from the book cover itself, the title is just Guardian, and then the subtitle is Into the Light of Day. So I don't know why the publisher decided to cram all those extra words in the title of the product. I don't know if they thought that that was going to be like a SEO thing or something like that. It might be a little bit nitpicky on my end, but I'm just not a fan of that. And this isn't the first time that I've seen a publisher do that. And lastly, where I don't think that this is being nitpicky. I think that this is just calling something out that is just not. This just doesn't. It's just confusing. I will say that much. But you're saying that is a superhero novel. So right there, novel. Okay, so that means literature. Superhero novel for grown-ups. That's fine. No problem with that. But you're saying with cinematic action. Now that's confusing. I don't know what that means. Cinematic action. That's not like, is this an ebook that has like video format like embedded within the pages somewhere? Because that would be different. I've never seen that before. I will say that much. I don't even know if that is possible with ebooks. If you can do that, if you can embed like video within the pages of an ebook, if you can, that would be pretty cool. Well, I don't know about cool. Might be getting ahead of myself a little bit. It'd be different, that's for sure. But that's the only thing that could possibly make sense if you're describing something as cinematic action. If you're talking about literature, that's a completely different medium, completely different format. There is no cinematics in literature. So just a little, FYI, when you're marketing, you're going to market your product a certain way or advertise your product a certain way. You want your wording, maybe be a little bit more accurate with your wording, I would say, just as a customer looking, because I'm looking at that and I'm saying to myself, like, it's just leaving me scratching my head. Like, what the hell does this person mean? There's certainly, like, right out the gates, I haven't even read the blurb yet, and I'm already scratching my head in several different ways over several different issues here. At first glance, I haven't even read the blurb yet. But speaking of the blurb, let's get to it. All right, let's not, I'm not trying to cast any aspersions here. I'm saying this in a critical eye to more or less be helpful as kind of what is it? An unbiased bystander, if you will, an unbiased observer. Like, I don't know who this author is. I don't know them personally or anything like that. I'm literally just coming at this as if I'm just a potential customer getting a first impression here. So the blurb says, within moments of arriving on Earth, Elizabeth saved a life. Over the next 8 centuries, she discreetly saved many more. Stopping the cataclysmic asteroid, she saved them all. Its explosion sent her crashing back to Earth in a fiery shower of meteorites. Caught on video by a teenager, her anonymity is destroyed in an instant. Turmoil ensues. Meta-powered beings begin to appear. Humanity is frightened and confused. There we go. The media and a politician with an agenda seek to take advantage. Into this global chaos, a new threat emerges, one greater than any she has ever faced, one that, if she fails, will destroy all that she loves. With the fate of the Earth hanging in the balance, all that stands between the world and obliteration is its guardian, Elizabeth. Yeah, Miss Elizabeth. 522 pages of superhero fantasy, superhero science fiction adventure, baby. As far as the blurb goes, I mean, it sounds like it could be a solid superhero narrative, really. Intriguing. Definitely sounds like it could be character driven, even though it doesn't really go into a lot of details about Elizabeth's like personal motivations. But definitely it does seem like there's certainly multiple moving parts, I should say, that could make it interesting. I'm glad you guys are chatting it up. Let's see who's up next. The Bulletproof Poet. The Bulletproof Poet has contributed to the live stream multiple times in the past. Poetry, books. Let's see. I'm pretty sure I've covered at least a poetry collection from him before. And I know I've read his poetry on more than one occasion. Let's see. The Bulletproof Poet He writes, Ecstasy of the Heart is more than just a poetry collection. It's a journey of the soul. Through poignant verses and stirring imagery, I explore the many facets of love and the emotions that come with it. Let's check out the, the more sensitive side, the more romantic side of the bulletproof poet with his poetry collection, Ecstasy of the Heart by Ismael Rodriguez. Perhaps showing a little bit of his vulnerable side with this collection. I will say that poetry, I'm not a poetry, I'm really not huge into poetry in terms of like reading it. I think the only poetry collection that I have in my personal library is a Bukowski book of all poets, and that's about it. But I do have respect for the medium. It's just not something that I typically will go out of my way to read, because I think that I believe that the medium is more of a personal thing. Like, it's not something that I read. In other words, it's not something that I read in order to critique, really, to say. Like, I don't think that it's easy to, I don't think, like, poetry is like one of those, like, forms of writing that I think it's difficult to critique. Unless it's like a narrative poem, like the Divine Comedy, something like that. It's like a fictional type of work, intended to be a fictional type of work. Other than that, I find poetry to be a very personal thing that's personal to the writer, personal to the author, and it can be difficult to really grasp the meaning behind the poem. From a literary standpoint, I know that poetry is more about interpretation, unlocking whatever it means to you, the individual. And that's where kind of the magic lies in poetry, which is why I think, critiquing poetry in general is kind of, I don't know. It's almost like it's a fool's errand, really, because what are you critiquing? A reflection of yourself at the end of the day. That's my thought on it. Well, I don't know. Maybe you guys have a different, maybe you guys have a different view on it. Of all the different written forms of art, I think poetry definitely comes across as the most subjective in that manner, I would say. It's almost like you have to know personal information about the writer themselves to kind of get a good grasp of what it is that they're, if you're to try and interpret it from their viewpoint. But anyways, Ismael Rodriguez, he keeps it short and he keeps it sweet in this blurb. He says, Ecstasy of the Heart is a collection of poems by Latino poet Ismael. The poems are a peek into the poet's thoughts and feelings. So there you go. He's putting himself in a vulnerable position here. Step inside for new perspectives on life, love, nature, and more. 246 pages of Hispanic American poetry. You guys read poetry? You guys own any poetry collections? Find them fascinating? I could see, here's an example. I think that I could see like celebrity, maybe like celebrity type of poetry could take off. You know, like people that like maybe you know a little bit, like they're a public figure of some sort. There's a little bit of background info. You know, you've got, you know, kind of like some gossip, some juiciness into their personal lives is out there in the public sphere. It might be interesting to get to see their kind of like, you know, some introspective type of work from them. And I definitely, that's the word. I definitely, that's what I think poetry is. Poetry is definitely like an introspective type of art form. Not to say that literature isn't, you know, writing narratives and stuff like that can't be introspective, but I'm just saying poetry is like the extra. Poetry is extra in that regard. That was that last book. Reads like a movie. Yeah, I mean, I've read books that kind of like it seems like the author was like playing a movie in their head, but that's different though. Like I think I think when something like reads, when I've said that before in critiques, that like I thought it came across as if the author was like watching a movie in their head when they were writing their book, in the sense that I don't mean that in a positive way. Like it comes across as very like this happened and then this happened and then this happened and then this happened, and the author was like just each individual like action, like inconsequential actions. If there's like a big long, like the author's just going on and on and on with all these like details, like action details, describing action details that are irrelevant to like the over, like to the story, to the plot. Like, why do we need to know that the character reached into their pocket? It was like literally the story. It was like the character reached into their right pocket. Why do we need to know it was the right pocket? You know, it's all these unnecessary questions. It's like muddles the narrative. Why do we need to know why was the author telling us that the character was reaching into their pocket, for one, their right pocket, more specifically, pulling out their keys? Then the character put the key in the driver's side door of the car, turned the key, opened the door, got in the car, you know, all that type of stuff. Like that's where I think like that's somebody who watches a lot of movies and maybe haven't read a lot of books. But yeah, that's just in terms of that title, that was just poor choice of wording. That's not cinematic. What cinematic means. You wrote poetry? Rachel says, I don't know. I was ambitious with poems a short while back, planning to compile 200. Wow. But then kind of tapped out at 35. Were they very emotional? Were you like, did you like cry when you were writing them? Were they that kind of emotion? Or was it like anger? Definitely cathartic. Writing like poetry, that's why I say it's like a personal thing. It's like extra, like it could be like an extra cathartic type of experience when writing poetry. Well, you did that? You actually have a poetry collection of your own? Is that what you're referring to? That makes sense. If you're hinting at the fact that they're left-handed, let's say if it's like a setup, right? So say it's like a setup. The character reached into their left pocket. Well, why do they need to know that the character reached in their left pocket? Like whatever pocket you reach into is probably going to be your main hand pocket, right? If you put something into your right pocket, then your main hand is your right hand. If you put something in your left pocket, well, maybe you're more likely to be left-handed. And that makes sense. That could be a little setup for a detail later on. Like, say, if the character is in a situation where, you know, they're using their left hand for they got to use their left hand for something. I don't know. You never cried? You never cried writing your poetry? Reading? What about reading your poetry? What if someone else, you ever had someone read poetry to you? A little boyfriend, something like that? You know? Read you poems? And that make you cry? Would that make you cry? I want real tears, Rachel. Real tears. I want to see you cry real tears. I like when women cry, I have to say. I like seeing women cry. All right. Let's see what we got up next. This comes from Wistaria, Evelina, MacTully. It says, move into a house. Easy. Find it haunted? Not so easy. Taken by aliens? Difficult. The story of Aine and Roisin is a look at society where anti-fascists win and dictators die. I hope you're ready to punch some Nazis. In Living with the Invisible Ones, the story of Aine and Roisin by Wistaria, Evelina, MacTully. I do like that name. It's a fancy pants kind of name. Is that a pen name? Did you come up with that yourself, or is that your birth name? Be interested to know. Come on. You've seen how I am with my guests. You think I'd do that to you? Come on. Come on. What kind of a guy do you take me for? There's the cover. I will say that the artwork on that cover, you know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of those old, those little keychain toys they used to have back in the day. You know what I'm talking about. Those keychain toys that all the broads had back in middle school. What is that? You know what I'm talking about. It's right on the tip of my tongue. It's right on the tip of my tongue. What is it? Tamagotchis. Yeah. Looks like it looks like Tamagotchi on there. Gotchi. All right. Here's the blurb. The MNL family moves into their new home to discover that they are not the only ones living in the house. With the help of a powerful seer, Lawis, I think that's Lawis. With the help of a powerful seer, Lawis, the family try to discover who the others are and how to deal with so many coming and going and staying in the house. After having learned to live with the dead, fear still lingers through Aine's bones, as the other invisible ones have yet to be figured out. Soon they would know exactly who these other invisible ones are, as the mother and daughter are abducted and forced to live aboard the spaceship. Aboard the spaceship, the mother and daughter would befriend their captors, who would discover that they are captives themselves through the use of a geneticist lab, these aliens were designed to be, I feel like this is so off the rails. Now I got to do my conspiracy theory voice. aboard the spaceship, the mother and daughter would befriend their captors, who would discover that they are captives themselves. Through the use of geneticist lab, these aliens were designed to be easily controlled. Through a discovery of their past, and with the mother now severely sick, the aliens seek to return the mother and child to their home. After returning to their ship, they seek to start a rebellion to free themselves from their tyrant leaders, the elders. Okay. The secret organization. It actually doesn't say that in the blur. It's a journey of twists and turns. A journey of twists and turns awaits you in this ghost tale like none told before. You got that right. What becomes of the family? What becomes of the extraterrestrials and the deceased that inhabit the house on the hill? This is a whopping 487 pages of creativity, I have to say. No specific categories, but here's the thing. This is definitely would fall under the umbrella of speculative fiction. I would just put that out there right now, because what I'm getting from this is multiple. I'm getting, there's paranormal aspect to it. So maybe a paranormal vibes to it. There's definitely the sci-fi with the inclusion of aliens. They're on the spaceship. Why do they go to the spaceship? This sounds like a wild ride. I have to say. A wild ride. Strap in and hold on tight. It's one of those, definitely sounds like one of those stories where, I strap in tight and grip the oh shit handle. You know what I mean? As this shit's gonna get wild. Well, those are the books. Those are the books for this week, ladies and gentlemen. If you're watching this on the replay, you can go head on over to the community tab. Those of you watching in the chat, shortly after, in post-production, I will be putting up the poll so you can vote for which one out of those 4 books you thought had the most text appeal. That's right. So in other words, which one out of those 4 books this week would you be most likely to pick up? And if you want to discover more from the independent market, you can head on over to my shorts tab, which YouTube has been glitchy for whatever reason. When you go to my page, you click the shorts tab, it's only going to show, or at least on my end, on my desktop, it was only loading 4 videos. There's more than 4 videos. If you hit the shorts tab like multiple times, then it loads all the videos. I don't know. That was just the issue that I was having on my desktop. So just a little FYI, if it looks like there's only 4 videos on my shorts tab, there's a lot more than that. Okay, you can head on over to my shorts tab, or you can just go right over to the playlist tab and open yourself up some mystery packs. Inside each mystery pack, there is a cover card, which reveals a book cover from the independent market that was recognized by the Live Free, Live Rich Network, or a book, I should just say, recognized by the Live Free, Live Rich Network. And then in the description section of each one of those videos is a link to an editorial I wrote specifically on that book. moving right along into the next segment here that I call the Reader's Review. The Reader's Review. I am very excited about this segment. I really would like some people to start sharing some reviews with me. Share some reviews with me, people. Do you read indie books? Do you read indie books? Have you ever left a review on an indie book? Have you ever written a review on an indie book? Share a link with me. I'd like to read it on the air. I'd like to highlight. I want to start highlighting people who are actually taking the time to open up these indie books and give them a chance. You know, I will read your review live on the air, you know, and I don't care if it's a positive review or if it's a negative review, because guess what? This segment is not about blowing smoke up the author's asses. It's not about paying lip service. It's not about, gassing people up. No, this is about highlighting the readers, the people who are taking the time to reach into their own pocket and to support the indie scene and take the time to read something that ultimately is obscure. In other words, nobody else, very few people are going to know, if anybody at all, within their own personal circles, are even going to know who the author is or what this book is that they're talking about. Okay. But the reason why I want to start highlighting these people is because those are the people that are giving indie a chance. And if the indie scene is a community-based type of activity, and it can't just be one-sided. It can't just be authors just, trying to sell people their work, sell. That's fine. If people want to get involved, there's room for everybody to get involved. But in order for this to but that's just sales, that's just marketing. In order for this to be an actual culture, we need readers out here. So that's what I want to do. People who are actually reading indie books, giving them a chance, because there's not like, a big, huge. My thing is like booktubers, okay? Booktube. A lot of people in Booktube are biased against indie books. Not to say that they despise indie or that they think indie shouldn't exist or indie doesn't have a place in the market. But it's just like I'm trying to put myself in their shoes, and they're like, okay, they're running a Booktube channel and they're trying to tap into fan bases, right? So what's the incentive for a booktuber unless they personally know the author? What is the incentive for them to pick up an indie book and give it a chance when they have so many other books on their TBR, classic literature that they want to read and this and that? Because there are plenty of booktubers out there that not only classic literature, they'll only read Western canon. They'll only read, New York Times bestsellers. And that's all they care about. Whatever's hot in the news, because that's going to generate clicks, or that's going to get them attention, or that's going to tap into a fan base that they can turn around and relate with because they're a fan of the author. Whether it be, plenty of authors out there. Just go ahead and name them. XYZ famous author that's been talked about for the past, 100, 200 years, because they already have built-in fan bases. So I think if we're going to turn the indie scene into an actual culture where people are active and people are doing things and because for me, like, I think, at the end of the day, fuck the money aspect of it. That's just a extra bonus. The money aspect of it. I want to see who's actually talking about the art, who's actually reading the books, who's actually talking about the books. That's what I want to see more of, because that would be exciting to me, regardless if it's positive or negative. You can't be afraid to share your opinions. You know what I mean? Readers. So this segment is just for you. You are not, I want to let it be known right now, even if you double as authors, you can share a review that a reader wrote on one of your books. That's fine as well. If you want to highlight a reader that took the time to write a review on one of your books, you can share that with me as well. If you're an author, I'm cool with that. But but just know that this segment is for readers. The readers, and I say this, say it 1,000 times, readers, when you're writing a review, when you are critiquing a piece of literature, doesn't matter if you know the author personally, anything like that, you are not beholden to them. Okay? It's about focusing on the art itself, the work itself. You know, I feel like if people aren't willing to be honest, there's no way that honest artists are going to be able to improve upon their craft, or at least just get someone's perspective on it. All right. It sounds like I'm starting to get into a hot topic here. Let's move it along. Let's move it along in some announcements. All right. First up, and as always, for anyone out there, regardless if you are which side of the coin in the market you are in terms of the indie market, if you want to share some links with me, the easiest way to get your work featured on the show and let me know what you're up to is just go ahead, join the Gilded or the Discord, or you can join them both. Okay. The links are always in the show notes down below. It's an open invitation. Anyone can join. It's fine. There's no specific rules or anything like that, or expectations. Like if you literally just want to use it as a resource to keep me on the up and up with what you have going on with your projects or what you're up to with your reading or your events, share your artwork. If you want to network with other members in there, it's up to you guys. I just assume you're all adults and you can make your own decisions. You know what I mean? I'm not there to. I'm really hands off when it comes to these servers. I'm really not care to be, a mediator or a moderator for that matter. I really just want some place for people to go and just share links with me, please. That's how I plan these shows for you guys. Without links, without you guys, it's all voluntary, in other words. And the underground scene is vast. So it's not a good use of my time to be going from individual to individual to individual to individual saying, you mind if I, share your stuff? Can I, hey, this looks cool. Can I have your permission to do this or that? No. And because for one, I'm not doing that. It's not a good use of my time. I got, a life outside of the internet, the things that I work on in my own projects. So this is something that I do to kind of give back to the community. But the people that I want to give back to are those who are proactive in the scene. In other words, the people who are willing to step outside of their comfort zone. I want to coax. I want to, I don't want to be too pushy. This is all voluntary, okay? You're not, there's no obligations here. But it's a permission thing for me. When I say voluntary, you are, I'm trying to coax people, just a little encouragement, if you will, to kind of give people a little nudge, because I know that social media can be hard. I know social media can be a pain in the ass. And sometimes it can come across as like a double-edged sword. And, it's kind of like one of those, if you're indie artist, you understand. I'm speaking to the choir, really, especially with some of you who are in the chat right now. But, it's just one of those things where it's like, it's a permission thing. It makes me feel good that I'm not, I want to know that I'm sharing something that people have already kind of given me their blessing to put on the show. And then I can just turn around, take these links and compile them into the queue, and boom, I can schedule these shows out ahead of time for you guys. And if you want to come on the show, don't hesitate to reach out to me. If you want, my DMs are always open. I'm not, one of those people, my DMs are closed. You can reach out to me, any of my social platforms. You can email me, ask me, send me an instant message on one of the servers. If you got a project coming up, you want to get on the show, I can fit you in a spot. I can get you a spot and do a little spot on the show where you can come on. We can chit chat, be relaxed, and just have fun with it. Have fun with it. Okay. Speaking of having fun, yeah. Speaking of having fun, if you guys would like, you can check out my performance in I Bury the Living. It's a Doorway to Nightmare production. If you don't know, they're in their 7th season, believe it or not. This is episode 3 of season 7 of Doorway to Nightmare. What is Doorway to Nightmare, you might ask? Well, so glad you asked. This is an audio drama series. Started here on YouTube, but it's actually on multiple platforms as well, by Winslow Swan and his friend Crimson Mackenzie. Is actually a horror mystery kind of thriller. It depends on the episode, because it's like an anthology type of series, in the sense that each episode is its own standalone story with a fresh cast of characters who are voice acted, who are played by voice actors, human voice actors. So no bots here. This is a 100% human production. So that's one thing that really caught my eye. When I stumbled across these guys on YouTube, I was like, wow, these people are putting in effort, man. Like, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. I definitely have my favorite episodes. And with this one, there's a fun little gimmick with this one that I thought was pretty neat. They're short episodes. They're like little screen. Each one, Winslow writes the screenplays, Crimson does the editing, and then there's a bunch of voice actors. So for me, this is my first time like trying my hand. I've always like had this thing growing up where I'd always like do like these pretend little like voice characters and stuff like that, just for gags or whatnot. But this is my first time actually like getting involved in an art project where I could like kind of practice or put, try my hand at voice acting. So it's just, for me, it's like kind of expanding my creative horizons, if you will, another outlet to just kind of, exercise my imagination and have some fun and be creative and, network with some people at the same time, make some new connections with some people out there who are also just kind of having some fun with it. And every episode premieres on Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And usually their internet connection, pending, usually Winslow and Crimson are there during the premiere. So, we get together and chat in the live chat. And they're, like I say, each episode is about, 20 minutes to about a half hour in length. That's what I call it. Yeah. Yes, indeedy. It is. I actually had them. I know that you saw that, Ben. Maybe some other people that are watching the show don't know, but I actually did have Crimson and Winslow on the show earlier in the year. It's one of the first. I think it was the second episode, or the second show that I did at the beginning of 2023. I had them on, and they were one of my first kind of guests to come on to the show. And when we talked about that, and we actually talked about some hot topics in the whole what's going on with the AI and the art debate. The AI generated art, as it were. And Winslow, we had talked about that. And I actually did, just because, I work with them, I'm not afraid to put some people on the spot every now and then and just, just see where they're at. You know what I mean? Just test the waters and see where they're at. And we brought up the subject of voice. Voice generators. We did touch upon that briefly, and I asked them. I kind of hinted, hey, have you guys ever, played around with any of them voice generators? It was automatic from them. It was automatic. They're no siree, no interest at all. They're just, this is a passion project that it's turning into a big thing, for them. It's a big thing. And it is pretty big, actually. It's very impressive, the amount of work that goes into each and every single episode of this show. I can't say enough about, the amount of passion. That's what I admire most, is the amount of passion that's going into it. And I just mean that in a sincere sense. Not just because, I'm part of the project. But yeah, it's pretty big deal. And they were just automatic. No, it's all human. It's all human actors. They're writing the scripts. They've made some adaptations type scripts before, where some of the episodes were based on for instance, Edgar Allan Poe stories, stuff like that. There's a range. Some of them are more lighthearted, or dark humor type of stuff, and some are a little bit more heavy in the content. So you never really know what you're going to get, from one week to the next. Yeah, I think that's really a staple of what makes indie. Really, at the end of the day, because indie is not corporate. Indies are not corporate conglomerates, corporate organizations and stuff like that. Indie is just individuality, expressing individuality, exploring, the creative mind, your own imagination to whatever depths that you want, and that passion, that's where the passion shines. And if you actually, a lot of what is in Hollywood really is stuff that originated from the underground. It came from an artist that was in the underground originally. A lot of the stuff that is in Hollywood, or that comes out of Hollywood, I should say. Even if they come across as abominations in some aspects. Now let's talk about stories. Let's talk about stories and passion projects, shall we? You writers out there, you guys might be interested to know that I got some opportunities for you guys as well. You got some passion. Who's got passion? Well, if you got some passion, I got a project for you. It's called the Storytellers Society. The Storyteller Society is a project that I launched on the eve of 2022. And this is just a little side project that I'm running through my blog, kind of a public collaborative, if you will. It's kind of an outreach program to kind of like network with my peers in the writing community, because I know that people like to network in different ways. Maybe not a lot of people know, but I actually come from a blogging background. So I used to write articles. That's how my website originally started, where I was writing a lot of articles about like business, finance, that type of stuff, when I was actually learning about that stuff myself. But then expanded into the arts and entertainment. And that was back in 2017. I want to say 2016, 17. And anyways, so this is a way, like, so the reason why I bring up blogging is because one thing that us bloggers would do is something called guest posting. So we'd have we'd all run our own blogs, but every now and then, if you want to get like, you want to gain some extra exposure for your own website or something like that, you might do a guest blog. You would write up a guest blog for somebody else, and they would host it on their blog, but they would do all the marketing and advertising for you. So really all you're doing is you're writing up the content, you're submitting the content. And what I'm looking for this project in that same vein is, this is for fiction specifically. So what I'm looking for is flash fiction for this project. That's flash fiction between 500 all the way up to 2,000 words. And it can be any genre, okay? I put a little drop-down menu so you can kind of categorize your own work when you submit it for my purposes, so I know how to kind of like market and advertise it. And if approved, you will effectively book yourself a room at what I have dubbed the Hotel del SS, where all the members of the Storyteller Society stay. And that's where your work and all your contributions will stay indefinitely. And this is something that I continue to market and advertise on a regular basis. Every week, I'm marketing and advertising this project. So it's up to you guys. This is a non-exclusive deal. This isn't a commercial project. This isn't an anthology. That's why I say it's in the same vein of bloggers, networking with bloggers, because this is something I run through my blog. This is something that is free for public viewing. Okay. So this is a non-exclusive deal. This is not a commercial project. This is not something I make money off of. This is literally just, you want to build a peer-to-peer relationship with yours truly. This is just one of those opportunities that you can do so as a writer. So if you're an aspiring writer, if you are an aspiring author and you have yet to have any of your work published anywhere online, aside from maybe snippets on your social media or something, this might be something that you're interested in. Start building up a portfolio. Or if you are a published author and you're just looking to expand your creative portfolio while simultaneously kind of building a peer-to-peer relationship, showing me, you're proactive, like, hey, you're interested. You just want to share something. This is non-exclusive deal, meaning you can actually, so long as you own the copyright and you can give me license to republish the work, this could actually be a piece of work that you have published somewhere else, even if it's on your own blog or through your own website. That's fine. So long as you own the copyright and you can give me license to republish it through my blog. And then, for this project in particular, and then I can kind of market it and advertise it that way. All right. So I do that for you guys, just another, a different kind of avenue in which you can kind of get involved. I'm on the lookout, FYI, if you offer something similar to that, through your own website. I'm talking like if it's I am willing to do free work, do like free, like submissions, like where I'm not, I don't like get paid or anything. Like, it's just for the passion of the arts, art for art's sake, if you will. Like, I'm cool with that. I'm down with that. Like, if it's going to get me extra exposure for my own work, my own website, some backlinks, something like that, and it's something that you market and advertise on a regular, like I would be interested in getting involved in projects like that. So if you guys have projects out there where you're accepting submissions, and even if it's non-paid work that you're looking for, because it's just something that you publish through your blog, I'd be open to that. I'd be open to, maybe at the very least announcing it on the show, but I might be inclined to want to get involved myself. And I may have some work, some exclusives that I might be able to submit. More on that later this year. I might have some extra news about that. Hey, Horace, Blood Moon, how you doing? Speaking of authors, another author dropping by the chat. Good to see you. Hey, was that you? That's inside baseball. Maybe you can tell me in the server, but I noticed in the Discord server there was another user on there that was like had your name on as the username. So there's like two people with your name in the server. So I don't know if that was actually you or what. Anyways, let's move it right along here. Here's the final announcement. And that's just the Live Free, Live Rich Weekly. You want to stay on the up and up with what's going on with the entire Live Free, Live Rich brand. Right on the homepage, livefreeliverich.com. Subscribe on the homepage, and you will get access to my weekly newsletter, which will give you all the pertinent links. If you don't do social media, you don't do Twitter, you don't do Facebook, hell, you don't even like subscribing to people on YouTube. Fine, fair enough. But you want to know where to go to watch these videos. You need all the pertinent links. I'll share them with you in the once a week newsletter that I send out every Saturday. Okay. And that's more than just the network. It's entertainment. It's the whole brand. It'll keep you on the up and up. Newsletters are not dead, people. Newsletters. Build your email lists. You know, I'm on several email lists myself. Build up your email list, because you never know when social media technocrats are going to pull the plug on your accounts. They can do it virtually for any reason or no reason at all at this juncture. That's what it seems like to me. So as I was saying before, if you've got some news to share, share it. I've done crowdfunders before. If you're looking, you got crowdfunding, you try and generate, some eyeballs for your crowdfunding project. If you've got submission calls, if you're doing a reading event, if you run a book club and you're looking for more members for your book club, share all that stuff with me. Just share. When in doubt, share the link. That's the new slogan for this show. When in doubt, share the links. Don't think before you link. Just share the damn link. I'll decide whether or not it's appropriate for the show. Okay, that's my job as the producer and the host. I'll decide what's appropriate for the show. You just worry about sharing your links and keep on creating, keep on producing, keep on exercising your imagination to the fullest extent. Okay, let me worry about running the show. All right. Oh, okay. All right. Good. I was hoping it. I was hoping it wasn't like some, you know what I mean, like a hacker or something. All right. Let's slide into the next segment. We got some reading time. Reading time. This can be all sorts of stuff. This can be poetry. This can be fiction. Doesn't have to just be fiction, but it can be essays, editorials. Okay, editorials. So unlike book reviews, in the reader's review, that's for short form reviews. I didn't mention it during that, but that's like, think Goodreads, an Instagram post or a Twitter post where you do like a short blurb or something like that. Well, not a blurb, but you know what I mean? A short little opinion piece or sharing your opinions about a book. That's what the reader's review is for. But if you actually go above and beyond and you have your own blog where you do like kind of a more like professional level critique or editorial pieces, opinion pieces on literature, you can share that stuff as well. And I would be more than willing to read it live on the air. It would be interesting to me, actually. And this week we do have something writing related. So this one comes from the name. I'll assume that the Twitter handle is the pronunciation. So we'll go with Swoon. Swoon Ajner. So this comes from Swoon Ajner. Says, hello, Magic Blackboard, twins on separated planets, and many more. Check it out on the link below. So you might be asking yourself, what does that mean? Well, we're going to be checking out a few more ideas by Swoon Ajner, and this comes via his blog, mywritingideas.blogspot.com. So maybe this could be a little insight, like a little brainstorming type sesh. So this is kind of a first for the stream. Seems kind of interesting. I've done that before, Rachel. I've already done that before. I'm a little bit more weary. There are some stuff that I kind of review now before, when I decide what I'm going to put on the stream, because I want to keep the streams up. It'd be one thing if I do it and then I take it down. But if I do the streams live, my only thing is if I do the streams live, the streams only have value. I feel like the streams will only provide value to those who contribute to the shows if I keep them up. If I just do the live streams and it's just about the live event, like you guys tuning into the live event, I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for showing up, stopping by, even if it's just to say hi. I appreciate you guys, just stopping by to say hi. That does mean something to me at the end of the day, even if I don't know you personally or anything like that. Just the fact that you want to stop by and say hi, that does mean something to me. But it's not the live event. The reason why I do this live is for that reason. That's just one aspect of the show. Kind of like we're all meeting up at the campfire. You know what I mean? Turning it into a thing. Hey, you have an opportunity where I'm scheduling a block of my time. Sorry, I'm going on a diatribe now. I'm dedicating a block of my time just for other creators out there, other people in the scene, because I want to, but I also want the engagement, and I do want to interact with people. I want to find people who are genuinely interested in indie. I know that, indie is not always the most exciting thing. Depending, it's really, sometimes it can be really hit or miss, which is why I try to bring variety to these shows. It's not just, if you noticed, the show isn't just about one author's work for 2 hours or whatever it may be. I want to offer variety. So for those folks, those of you who do decide to show up for the live event and you want someone to hang out with, it's just the hangout stream. That's the hangout part. You just want to hang out with a fellow author, somebody else who is in the indie scene. You don't feel so alone in the indie scene or isolated. It's just an opportunity to do so. But I want to keep the shows up too, because then it's more valuable for everybody. It's an incentive to say, hey guys, get involved, This is something that's documented. This is on record. Like, this is something that is going to, be here indefinitely, on multiple platforms as well. That's your work. And also, I've said numerous times too, you guys have my permission. You can download any of these episodes if you want and edit them however you want. And you can use it for your own marketing and advertising purposes. I really want to encourage engagement, because without engagement, it's what? Just people talking at each other. Buy my book. Buy my book. That's boring, man. To me, that's boring. The underground scene is vast. I'm involved in the underground. I'm involved in the indie scene, hands-on and putting my money where my mouth is. But culturally speaking, it can be really boring, man. Like, there's so many people out there that are like selling and marketing their work. And if that's all it ever is when you're trying to see what's going on in the scene, and that's all it ever is when you turn around is just people saying, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, that's boring. Like, where's the part where we talk about the art? Where's the part where we're ripping apart books, laughing at them, poking fun, because that can be fun too. What the hell? What's the point of art if you can't have fun with it, right? Regardless of how people think you're coming across, you're entitled to your opinions. That's the part that's fun to me. So that's why I try to have all this type of like variety in the shows. So I want to let you guys know, if you ever have any suggestions as well, join the Discord, join the Gilded, and you can drop some, just talk in there. You can drop some suggestions. I'd be open to it. Maybe I could include, I've thought of ideas like maybe incorporating games. I know games can come across as gimmicky sometimes, so I guess it would really depend what kind of games we're talking about here. But maybe like when I have, because how like shows, like if they have guests or visitors on the show, it's not just interview. It's not just firing all the generic questions. So when did you start writing? Oh, when you were a child, when you were in preschool. Hey, me too. Ever since I picked up a pen. That shit's kind of, it's boring, it's bland, it's generic. So, so it could be like when I have guests, like I could kind of emulate, late night television, something like that, where they'd have fun with the guest in some way. Like maybe we play a game or something, a wacky game, something funny, something that like keeps the audience in mind. Look, we can have a conversation, but don't forget, we're live on the air. We're putting on a show here. People are tuning in. Maybe not a lot of people at this point, but I still want to keep those people who potentially may come across the show in mind. Is it entertaining to watch? Why should people care? All right, let me get into this. Let me do this reading time. We'll get into all the comments. Plenty of time for the comments. We'll go into the wrap up if you guys make it all the way to the end. Any of you who are still tuned in, and feel free to chime in too. Anything you want to say. I ain't going to block you. I ain't going to put you in timeout. I might not put it up on screen, but hey, say whatever you got to say. All right. This is your time as well as mine. So this is kind of a different type of idea here that he's running with his blog. A few more ideas, as a matter of fact. My writing ideas. So a few more ideas. So this is kind of a continuation of a previous blog post, but I will be leaving a link to this one in particular. And then you guys on your own time, you can go back. This is a little bit of the shorter version. So a few more ideas. And then if you guys want to check out the longer version of this, then you can. So what it seems like to me, if you guys are familiar in Twitter, if you're on Twitter, you know, the whole pit dark thing, the pitch dark or whatever that event is. I don't participate in that, but this is kind of what this reminds me of right here. So it's kind of like the gist of it is this author is just kind of pitching story ideas, really, is what this is. So let's check this out. And if you guys want to share some opinions, go right ahead. Would you or not say so? Say you're in the publisher's seat right now. You're in the executive chair. You got to make an executive decision on these posts right now, on these pitches. So let's check them out. So the first one here, fans of sports teams have a competition when their club plays. In the place where the match is played, fans have a secret meeting where they have a fighting competition. Each club chooses its best fighter and they fight until one surrenders or is knocked out. There are only two rules: no weapons and no killing. It's hand-to-hand combat without gloves. And the scoring is the same as in the club sport they support. And at the end of the season, a winner is announced. I wonder how that would work. What if they like football? And I don't mean football as in like soccer, but like American football. Sir, can you please not with the touchdown? Okay. Keep your hands to yourself. How many points for that? Here's the second one. A man was released from prison after serving 10 years because in self-defense, he killed 3 attackers who attacked him, his wife and daughter. While he was in prison, his wife passed away and his daughter agreed to take care of him because no one wanted to give him a job. Although the daughter has turned 18 and is barely making ends meet, in addition to going to college, she barely finds time to work to take care of herself and her father. This one seems a little like it wants to pull at the heartstrings a little bit more of a literary type piece here on that pitch. I don't know. Seems like a little kind of laying it on thick, though. It seems like kind of laying it on a little too thick, you know. Killed 3 attackers who attacked him, his wife, and daughter. You know, on one hand, it's like, okay, probably saved their lives, had to do jail time for it. And to what end? You know, now, you know, they're barely making ends meet, but she is going to college, though. She is, you know, seems like she's trying to make a life for herself or future for herself. Still trying to take care of her father. It doesn't specify why he can't take care of himself, though, just because he can't get a job, a job. There's plenty of ways to make money. Maybe he joins the Hells Angels. That could be interesting. They'd probably find work for a guy like that. Let's see. The third pitch here. The government built a city where only people who are in the witness protection program live. Nobody knows the location of the city except for a few people in the government, because that way everyone in the city is safe and everyone knows that they are under protection until one day one of the residents receives an email saying that someone has found out the location and the list of all the citizens. Uh-oh. And that is on the dark web for auction. So that one almost like a quasi secret society thing, but for snitches. A secret society for snitches, if you will. I'm noticing a little bit of a theme with these pitches here. kind of an outlaw, a motif, if you will. I'm getting kind of an outlaw motif going on with these 3 different pitches here. I kind of dig it. What do you guys think? Which one's the best one out of those 3 pitches? Government built city for snitches. And then suddenly, well, first and foremost, why would you, like, that just sounds like a bad idea. I'm not talking in terms of the story, just in general. Like, if you are a snitch and you're ratting out dangerous people, and then you're going to go live in a designated area that's built specifically for snitches. Like, that just sounds like you're just waiting to be found out by design. Actually, you literally cannot trust anybody else living there. The second story pitch is kind of like I said, kind of laying it on thick. I could see there's some things you could do with it. Like I said, like maybe he turns to the outlaw life. He's a noble outlaw. I think that would be a cool character thread to kind of explore with the father in that second story. The first one, I don't get it. I'll be honest with you. The first pitch doesn't make sense to me. I don't even know logistically like how that would work exactly. Like underground fight club, okay, from the fans of sports teams, okay. So is it like they say they're into hockey, so it's an underground fight club for hockey fans? That I could get a little bit, because there is fighting in hockey, there is fisticuffs in hockey, in the sport itself. So maybe the fans start going toe to toe. That I could see how that could work. A hockey fan hosts an underground fight club for, because then you could have a shit ton of members, because there's quite a few hardcore hockey fans out there, and they're into those fights. So you could just start a little network, it could be a little underground network, if you will, between the hockey fans. Be like, oh yeah, your team's puss. Why don't you step into the ring with me? Thursday night. Oh, your team's going to the finals. We'll see about that, pal. Your team might have won this week, but I'm going to kick your ass. All right. I don't know what the narrative would be behind that, but I'm just saying logistically, it's something. You could build upon that type of a plot, I suppose, and maybe make like analogies between the sport itself and the underground scene, and then the characters involved. Maybe. But the pitch itself, a little bit vague. Maybe a little bit more on that. I would say I need more. I would say that one gets I need more from me. The second one, it's workable. The way the pitch is worded right now, not something that piques my interest. You would need more to that. The last one, not really. The last one doesn't work for me. Let me see what you guys have to say. That's fun. I like that. That's a cool idea. I like that idea. I like that too. Pitches get stitches. You said snitches. I would say pitches get stitches, because you're beating it up. You're beating their pitch. You're beating up on the pitch. I feel like I wasn't beating up too bad on those pitches, was I? Your pitches get stitches. Hey, how you doing? Welcome. Just in time for the pitches, Rainer. What's going on, man? So you got a new book out. Rainer Chen. Went out for dinner, brought some drink back. Some drink. Horace, I assume that's probably something unrelated to this article. I'll get to that. What do you guys think about these pitches? Which one do you guys think? You're in the executive chair. You're a publisher right now. Which one of these pitches? Did any of them work for you? Are they all junk? Let me know. The last two sound fun. Rainer says the last two sound fun. See where I was going with it? What do you think? Your vote for Snitch City? What? Why? That sounds bad. I'm just fucking with you. But seriously, that story sounds bad. Snitch City, how's it work? I'd like to see what you come up with. How would you make that work logistically? Can you imagine? Neighbor to the left of you, neighbor to the right of you. Can't trust either one of them. As far as you could throw them. Neighbor across the street from you. You going to his barbecue? Fuck no. Why not? Because you're going to get drunk. Number one. If there's drinking involved, you might get drunk. Loose lips sink ships. You're going to start talking. You're going to say things. And you can't trust these people. They've already proven themselves to be loose lips. That's all it's going to take is for one of them neighbors to catch a hair across their ass one day. And they're sending you right to the cop shop. Over trumped up charges. Maybe you didn't mow your grass down to the HOA standard. You got a jungle yard. You're getting fined, buddy. Guess who's got the HOA on speed dial? Yeah, exactly. I would never, I'll tell you guys, I would never move into an HOA. Hell no. As much as I would like to be in a private community, and just like not deal with, even though like actually I really like where I live. I'll say that. But I would never move into the city. But if I was to move anywhere where, maybe I'm closer to like a beach or a nice place like that, I wouldn't mind being in like a gated type community type area, so long as the neighbors, are nosy and aren't the, I have to be a part of some HOA crap. I would not do that. I would not play well with others in that sense. I would just, because I'm the type, I just want to be left alone and just leave me alone. As far as that goes, you don't need to know what's going on in my personal business. I don't know what that is. What's Lilyhammer? Rachel says, I'm pretty sure that the plot where a mobster turns in his gang and hides out in a rural Sweden. Oh yeah. We'll get to it. I'll get to it in the wrap up. I only have one more segment, then we'll do the wrap up. I promise I'll get to it. I noticed before the show, Rachel was getting busy on that keyboard. I'll even have some theme music playing in the background. And I'll even title it too. It's going to be a very special segment. A never before seen special segment just for this show, just for this one show, an exclusive segment just for you, Rachel. Oh, you bought some cheap Italian bubbly. You guys, Snitch City. Because you want tea time. Is that what it is? Maybe. Maybe it could be fun. Maybe it could be fun. Tea time. It's gossip. There would have to be multiple characters. You'd have to, and it would have to be, what would it have to be? It would have to be, I think, third person. It would have to be third person, like third person, maybe third person close. Or I don't know. I almost think a third person omniscient would be the best approach for a story like that, because then you get the ins and the outs. You get the dialogue, and the internal thoughts of each individual snitch in this narrative. In other words, they're saying one thing, but they're thinking another. Fucking snakes. Snitch. That's what I'm saying. For stupid shit. Like there could be different levels. There could be levels, a hierarchy of snitches, right? You got the little petty snitches, the petty little bitches, the petty bitches, right? That would call up HOA because you haven't mowed your grass in a week, as if somehow that's like hurting their existence. Your grass offends me. Mow it. I got nothing better to do. They're sitting on their ass with the fucking clicker in their hand. And they just happen to fucking gawk out the blinds to see your grass is a little bit taller than the neighbors. I swear that's never happened to me. Okay, guys, don't read into it, all right? Sunday brunch. Here we go. Here's a situation. Rainers writes, Sunday brunch, one old guy. The Sopranos want me dead. The other old guy. Yeah, so the Mexican mafia want me in pieces. Yeah. They're comparing as if it's like, to outdo their own victimization. Oh, they would know. They would know. How would they not know? Actually, they might not know. They say, okay, you're in the witness protection program, right? But they don't inform them, the police, because the police are scum too. Like the police, they just want the bust. The detectives, they just want the bust. They don't really give a fuck about what happens to the witnesses after the fact. Their job's done. The business is done. It's like signing a contract and shit like that. When they get these statements and stuff and these people go on the stand, it's all for them, at the end of the day. It's good for the department. It's good showing on their end. But then what happens to the witnesses after the fact? It's like, hey, look, we washed our hands of that a while ago, pal. You're in the program now. Okay, we got the program. But it's a half-ass program, and they don't tell them that they're in some kind of like designated city that's literally just they're literally just surrounded by snitches. Yeah, I could see the pigs doing that. You ain't kidding. Oh God, Karen wars instead of turf wars. Instead of like turf wars and like it's almost like, okay, so Snitch City, right? Snitch City, instead of like turf wars like gangs would have, like in urban areas, like urban gang wars, you have like the snitch Karen wars, Snitch City wars. They're like fighting for turf. Now we're grasping at, I feel like we're kind of grasping at straws here. I don't know. We're expanding above and beyond. I'm getting the creative juices flowing, I have to say. That's why I say this is a very engaging blog post. This is a very engaging blog post, I have to say. Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, you'll be exclusive. Not very many people. I've not seen a hell of a lot of that. You know what's very popular? First person. The first person, I would say, this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think that writing first person perspective is literally the easiest POV to write. It's the easiest. You just have to have a little bit of empathy. It really boils down to empathy. Really, how much empathy do you have as a writer to be able to put yourself in a character's shoes based on whatever situation you're coming up with to put them in. Now you got to put yourself, how well your writing is really going to rely on how much empathy you have to be able to kind of project yourself and put yourself in that character's shoes. Not to say that it's a self-insert, but I'm just saying, like, put yourself in that character's shoes, and then the higher the skill level, it's more like not only put yourself in that character's shoes, but also think like that character would, like WWJD, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, turn into a whole series. Might be more apt for like a show. I could definitely see that being one of those trashy, like a trashy, what would it be? Would it be an HBO show? I don't know if that's a good enough narrative for an HBO show. Maybe like what network would it be on? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it could have kind of a Sex in the City type of vibe to it, I suppose. Definitely something that I think chicks would be interested in. I could definitely see women being the main demographic for that. Watch that show, a show like that. Biggest snitches, yeah. Screw the HOA. Nonsense. Stars. Is that still around? Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, the Big N. Yeah, that's a show. That's a show built for the Big N. AMC's got some decent. AMC has had some decent shows, some decent series, critically acclaimed series that aren't just like bullshit critically acclaimed, but like decent, like good series. Wasn't Walking Dead on AMC? The show was all right, at least for the early seasons. And I would say, I don't know, I did like the early seasons, but then like once you got up to like season 3 with that, I think it was 3 or 4 with the guy with the freaking eye patch, the governor. I thought he was a stupid antagonist, boring antagonist. And then, the show kind of like dwindled off from there. And then it got good again when they introduced Negan. Negan was badass. Negan was a great antagonist. Great. Very gritty. Definitely a fan of that Negan season. And then I just stopped watching the show altogether after that. And no specific reason. I just never watched any more seasons. I feel like there's only so much you can do with those post-apocalyptic, zombie shows. before it begins to kind of, you know, law of diminishing returns, you know. All right. Let's see. The next segment would be to share some media. No featured media tonight. This could be videos. This can be audio. Okay. So this is like your own stuff. So if you have a video that you want me to watch, okay, this is a block of time that I dedicate to just whatever it is that you guys got going on. So if you have a specific video that you think would fit it well into the show, even if you don't know, like I say, what's the saying? When in doubt, just share the link. Don't think, just share the link. That's the ticket right there. That's the slogan for this show. Don't think, just share the link. For God's sake. Don't think, just share the link. And then you go back to doing whatever you do. Go back to creating. Go back to using your imagination and working on your own projects. Okay? Let me talk about what you got going on. Okay? Helps me out. Helps you out. Help me help you. Don't think. Share the link. All right. So videos. This could be video essays. This could be you reading your poetry. So this could be on your own YouTube channel, or it can come from another platform, BitChute, Rumble, whatever you do. If you do alternatives, that's fine, but I will probably have to review the video just in case, make sure you didn't slip anything that wouldn't be, you know, appropriate for YouTube as far as that goes. You know, because if the channel gets struck down, it's not, you know, it's not my ass. It's no skin off my back. I'm not making money off of this. Okay. So it's not about making money for me, but it's not going to be fair for all the other people that have benefited from, you know, my effort that I put in on this channel. You know what I mean? If this channel gets struck down. So I'd say just, you know, but don't worry about it. It's my job to figure out what's going to go on the stream. So don't think, just link. All right, let's get into the last segment here. No way. Governor 2.0. He had a system. He had a system. He had it planned out. He had workers. He had he understood. He had a philosophy. The governor was just LARPing. The governor was LARPing, and he had mommy issues. All right. Let's get into the last segment. Last segment before we wrap things up today. All right. And you guys already know. You guys already know what's coming next. This is Hot Topic for content creators. Hot Topic for content creators. This is where I pitch a hot topic to you guys, and then you guys turn around, if you feel so inclined, and create your own content on said topic. And if you tag me in your video or share the link with me, then I may feature your video during a future live stream, and I'll just provide commentary as I watch your video and see, you know, where you're coming from with your perspective. We can kind of be like video pen pals in that way. Or you could always go to my playlist tab and check out any of my previously pitched hot topic videos, and you can leave comments in the comments section, and I will address those live on the air. You can kind of take your time, let it kind of marinate a little bit, and kind of almost like a blog post, if you will. And I'll go through it point by point by point during a future show. Or else, if you have your own blog, speaking of which, then you can write up a post on any subject as we kind of like embroider these topics. And I'll check that out during a future show. And the topic for this particular hot topic here that I have for you guys today, we're revisiting one. The prompt for this topic is traditional publishing obsolete? That is the question that I pose to you guys. I want to know. There's a lot of different angles to kind of look at, a lot of different subject matter. We've talked about, kind of the writer strike that's going on. There was a writer strike that went on earlier in the year at HarperCollins. I covered that during this segment. What else have I talked about? We've talked about the rise of the indie scene and what that means in terms of alleviating some of the stigma that used to surround the indie scene, and also kind of took a critical look at kind of the so-called prestige of traditional publishing. Do they still have the same prestige that they once held, maybe 10, 20 years ago? Definitely the rise of the indie scene has caused the game to kind of change, metamorphosize, if you will, a little bit in the way that people approach things. Artists are looking to become published writers and published authors out there. So tonight, I do have a blog post prepared for you guys that I picked out because it comes from a famous traditionally published author. The reason why I picked this out is twofold. One, it has to do with the WGA strike that's going on right now. So the Writers Guild of America strike that's going on right now, but it also is coming from a traditionally published author. So it kind of dovetails those two subjects, and it's pertinent to this hot topic in that way. And also, I kind of skimmed the blog post a little bit, and he's sharing inside info from somebody who is deeply involved in the industry to a successful degree, might I add. So let me just go ahead and get that prepared before I introduce who that is. Maybe you can guess. Hey, Yosef over in Rumble. What's going on? How's it going? Well, I'll tell you this. Not too shabby, not too crabby. That's what I say. Okay, yeah, just load it, man. That's stupid. My firewall just popped up and they're like, not safe. Yeah, don't worry about it. I'll decide what's safe and what's not safe. All right. I was literally just on the post not that long ago. All right. And this blog post comes from George R.R. Martin. Surprise, surprise. I want to talk about strikes. All right. I guess I have to do it like that. Talk about going on strike. What do you think? He might be the one to talk about it, huh? Ask any booktuber who's a fan of the was it A Song of Ice and Fire? They'll tell you apparently George R.R.'s been on a strike for a while, or at least a hiatus. All right, let's get into the post. I've been looking forward to this. He says, I want to say a few words about what I think is the most important issue in the current writer's strike, the so-called mini rooms that the Guild is hoping to abolish, and the terrible impact they are having on writers at the start of their careers. A look at my own career may be instructive. For the first 14 years of my career, I wrote only prose, a few novels, and lots of stories for Analog, Asimov's, and various other sci-fi magazines and anthologies. Much as I enjoyed television, I never dreamt of writing for it until 1985. Just a year after I was born. Much as I enjoyed television, I never dreamt of writing for it until 1985 when CBS decided to launch a new version of The Twilight Zone. And executive producer Phil DeGuire invited me to write an episode for them. It must be nice, huh? Just gets an invite, just like that. A freelance script. That was how you began back then. I decided to give it a shot, and Phil and his team liked what I did. Now, I will say a little bit on that because that's what the indie scene, I'm making a prediction right now, that's what the indie scene is going to become. Because like I say, I am interested in multiple facets of the indie scene, not just literature, okay? Not just, I'm starting to learn about the comic books. I gotta admit, I'm not a huge comic book guy. I'm learning, but I've never been huge into comic books. More of a literary guy, but I'm not just into literature. I like indie music too. So for those of you who followed me on Twitter or seen any of my Twitter posts, you'll know that. I'm always sharing indie music. This type of shit that I like to listen to, but it's indie nonetheless. So I like indie music. I like indie literature, and I have aspirations to get involved in independent film as well. And that's a whole nother beast. That's a whole nother learning curve of creativity to go through to learn about how independent film works. But my prediction, like I was saying, my prediction right now is that that's what this whole indie scene is going to become. There are going to be, the cream is going to kind of rise to the top. And as the cream rises to the top, that's going to have more access to resources. You know what I mean? Just in terms of being able to finance projects, get projects produced on kind of a professional level. Even if it's just because it's not mainstream doesn't mean that shit cannot be produced on a professional level, in the traditional sense of the word, and that may, the standard to which you build your brand on is really going to be dependent upon your access to resources and your finances and how much you're willing to invest in the project that way. However, like I said, the cream's going to rise to the top, and there's going to be all these different, when that happens, there's going to be all these different labels and new companies, indie companies out there, and indie productions or producers, I should say, that will be able to kind of finance these projects. And they may be open to people who do screenplays, write screenplays and stuff like that, and may want to produce an indie film. And they have connections that they've already built up through their own networks, shit like that. That's the type of shit that I'm predicting right now. And how George is talking right now, where he's saying back in 1985, it was just, hey, some guy came out and invited him to write a script for the show. That's precisely how indie works. Literally. It's just individuals working with individuals. Someone may have read some of your novels and said, hey, I like how this guy writes narrative. I like how this, I like the prose in this work. Maybe I'd like to adapt that into a film. And then you are getting approached. Suddenly you are getting approached by, people who have managed to make a name for themselves within the indie sphere, within the underground scene. There can be quite a bit of money flowing through the underground scene. You know what I mean? Just because it's underground, don't think that there ain't money out here. Trust me. A freelance script. That was how you began back then. I decided to give it a shot, and Phil and his team liked what I did. So much so that within days of delivery, I got an offer to come on staff. Before I quite knew what had happened, I was on my way to LA with a 6-week deal as a staff writer at the guild minimum salary, scripts against. In the 80s, staff writers was the lowest rung on the ladder. You could tell because it was the only job with quote unquote writer in the title. What I knew about television production when I got off that plane at Burbank was, well, so minimal, I can't think of a pithy analogy. But I learned. I learned in the writer's room from Phil himself and the amazing staff he had assembled for Twilight Zone. Jim Crocker, Rocknan S. O'Bannon, the incredible Alan Brennert, Michael Cassett, and a bevy of fantastic freelancers. And not just about dialogue and structure and the language of script writing. I learned about production as well. The moment I arrived, Phil threw me into the deep end. I wrote 5 scripts during my season and a half on Twilight Zone, and I was deeply involved in every aspect of every one of them. I did not just write my script, turn it in, and go away. I sat in on the casting sessions. I worked with the directors. I was present at the table reads. The Last Defender of Camelot was the first of my scripts to go into production, and I was on set every day. I watched the stuntmen rehearse the climactic sword fight in the lobby of the Saint Elsewhere set, as it turned out. And I was present when they shot that scene and someone zigged when he should have zagged and a stuntman's nose was cut off. A visceral lesson as to the kind of thing that can go wrong. At least he wasn't holding the gun, huh? With Phil and Jim and Harvey Frand, our line producer, another great guy who taught me a lot, I watched the dailies every day. After the episode was in the can, I sat in on some post-production and watched the editors work their magic. I learned from them, too. There is no film school in the world that could have taught me. There's no film school in the world that could have taught me as much about television production as I learned on Twilight Zone during that season and a half. When Twilight Zone was renewed for a second season, I was promoted from staff writer to story editor. More money, and now scripts were plus and not against. Started sitting in on freelance pitches. Now I was allowed to talk and give notes. I was allowed to talk. Who's the intern over here? Started sitting in on freelance pitches, and now I was allowed to talk and give notes. Sadly, the show was canceled halfway through the second season. But by that time, I had learned so much that I was able to go on to further work in television. I did a couple of stories for Max Headroom, but my next staff job was Beauty and the Beast. They brought me on as executive story editor. That sounds very important. One bump up from my TZ rank. Over the next 3 years, I climbed the ladder, rung by rung. Co-producer, producer, co-supervising producer, supervising producer, co-executive producer. When B&B finished its run, when Beauty and the Beast finished its run, I started writing features and pitching pilots, landing an overall deal at Columbia. Created and scripted Starport and The Survivors and Fade Out and Doorways, which we filmed for ABC. I was showrunner along with Jim Crocker and executive producer on that one. That was my first 10 years in television, between 1985 and 1995, more or less, long before HBO and Game of Thrones. None of it would be possible if not for the things I learned on Twilight Zone as a staff writer. All right. As a staff, I learned on, none of it would have been possible if not for the things I learned on Twilight Zone as a staff writer and story editor. I was the most junior of junior writers, maybe a hot-ish young writer in the world of SF, but in TV, I was so green that I would have been invisible against a green screen. And that, in my opinion, is the most important of the things that the Guild is fighting for. So now he's getting into a little bit, that's what's going on the strike here. He's weighing in. He was posturing, and now he's ready to weigh in. The right to have that kind of career path. Is it a right, though? See, right out the gates, you're already rubbing me the wrong way, though. You know, I don't care where you come from. You know, that's all well and good. And you're definitely, your career is worthy of a level of respect, you know, from an artistic standpoint and as a businessman, you know, in terms of getting shit done. But philosophically here, what do you mean right? What do you mean a right? That implies that the studio owes people something, you know? So the right to have that kind of career path. And that's why I feel like that's what the indie scene is doing, though. Is it a right, though? Because when you say something is a right, you're kind of like, it's almost like you're insinuating that there's a level of entitlement there. You know, it's a privilege. At the end of the day, you were very privileged, as a matter of fact, to get the opportunities that you had. You know, no disrespect. I'm just saying I'm just recognizing it for what it was, an amazing privilege. And it's because of, you know, and you are self-admittedly saying it's because of your connections. This Jim Crocker fellow, as far as I can see, was your ticket into mainstream TV. So that wasn't a right. That was a privilege. You knew somebody who was in the industry, and they handed you, you know, I'm not saying there wasn't any work involved on your end. Yeah, you had to prove yourself after the fact. And you do seem as though you were humble about that. You're not saying you went in there and you were telling them how to do the job and how the job is done. You know, I'm not insinuating that, but you definitely had privilege. It was a privilege. It wasn't a right. You know, in other words, nobody owed you that opportunity. You know, so right off the gates, that's, you know, where my stance is on this. Okay. So the right to have that career path, to enable new writers, young writers, and yes, prose writers to climb the same ladder. Right now, they can't. So this, maybe we get a little inside info here. Streamers, so like streaming services, streamers and shortened seasons have blown the ladder to splinters. The way it works now, a show gets put in development. The showrunner assembles a mini room made up of a couple of senior writers and a couple newcomers. They meet for a month or two, beat out a season, break down the episodes, go off and write scripts, reassemble, get notes, give notes, rewrite, rinse, and repeat. And finally, turn into the scripts. And show is greenlit or not. Some shows never get past the room. What a grueling process, huh? But that's the level. That's what I'm saying. That's like the level of professionalism. When I'm talking about professionalism, this is shit that can be recreated in the indie scene. This isn't something that is just exclusively Hollywood, but he is giving you an inside info of this is how Hollywood kind of works. You know what I'm saying? Behind the scenes. But this is all shit that can also be recreated in the indie scene as well. This process, in other words, you recognize he's giving you inside info as to the blueprint, the business plan, if you will. This is critical information right here that you can kind of model your own projects after if you wanted to. But anyways, let's go. Let's continue. He says, and show is greenlit. The showrunner and his second, maybe his second and his third in command, I'm assuming. The showrunner and his second, maybe his second and his third, take it from there. The writers, the writer producers, the ones who already know all the things that I learned on Twilight Zone. The junior writers, they're not there. Once they delivered their scripts and did a revision or two, they were paid, sent home, their salary ended. They are off looking for another gig. And that's a byproduct. I think that's a byproduct of the rise of the indie scene, because the indie scene, like I say, it's more of you're doing business with other it's just individuals doing business with other individuals. And apparently it's no different in Hollywood now. The gig economy is everywhere. There's no need to have and I'll say this from a business mindset, like I'd actually take their side on this. There's no need to have unnecessary people on payroll. If you're trying to run a business, if you're trying to make a profit from your production, you don't want to have hangarounds. You don't want to have people lingering around on payroll. Just 1099 their asses and just thanks for your work. Okay, you got to go home now. Well, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. As far as that goes, I'll pay you for a particular job. Once the job's done, 1099 your ass right out the door. All right. All right. And that's fine. Like, I feel like that's what commissions are all about. Commissioning. You don't want to why would you want to get trapped in a contract anyways? I feel like that would just be limiting as an artist. You know what I mean? You don't want to be trapped in a contract. I would feel like you want to be able to be mobile, bounce around with different things. Okay. You got a job for this one particular project. You're hyper-focused on that one particular thing. Bada boom, bada bing, you're out of there. And you're hopping on to the next thing. You don't want to be locked into a contract where it's like, okay, you might be getting paid, but you can't do anything else. Maybe you're getting shit salary on top of that. And you also you signed a contract where now you're locked into a deal for like 6 months where you can't be producing anything else for 6 months. That might be stipulation. I'm just saying, I'm not saying that is a norm, but I'm saying that that's a possibility. Once they delivered their, they are off looking for another gig. If the series gets another season, maybe they will be brought back. Maybe they won't. Maybe they can't, since they are off in another mini room for another show. See what I mean? If they do get brought back, they may get a promotion, but that's not guaranteed. I know writers who have been staff writer on half a dozen different series, and others who have been writer's room assistant, quote unquote, which is the new entry-level gig. So no one buys freelance scripts anymore. Interesting. No freelance. Apparently you all got, it's all has to be through represent. You need a representative. You need an agent of some sort. 3 or 4 times. Let's see. Writer's room assistant. Others who have been the writer's room assistant 3 or 4 times, never getting off the bottom rung of the ladder. So matter how talented they are. And when a junior writer does finally get a better title, even one that will put a P word on their IMDb credits, they still won't have any producing experience. In many cases, they won't be asked to set even when the episodes they wrote are being filmed. They may be allowed on set if the showrunner and execs are cool with that, but only as a visitor, with no authority, no role, and no pay, of course. They may even be told they are not allowed to speak to the actors. A tight ship, big budgets. You know, I sympathize with that, as a matter of fact. Yeah. One of the things the AMPTP put forward in their last offer to the WGA is that some writers might be brought onto sets as unpaid interns. Oh, there's the magic word, interns. Free labor, to shadow and observe. Now, I will say that there is some value to be had there. You know, getting that inside baseball experience. Definitely be taking a lot of damn notes as far as that goes. And you can try to recreate that blueprint. Even that will not be an absolute right. There's no rights involved. Maybe they will be let in, maybe not. These are the people who wrote. I almost feel like George is writing this blog post with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because of the whole Game of Thrones debacle. Is anyone else kind of picking up on that vibe? If only I had been there. When did he check out on the Game of Thrones production? At the end of season 5? I don't remember. I remember there was something about him like checking out on the whole production at some point during the show's run on HBO. These are the people who wrote the stories being filmed, who created the characters. Oh yeah. There's definitely some jaded. He's definitely jaded on this blog post. These are the people who wrote the stories being filmed, who created the characters, who wrote the words the actors are saying. I was way more than that in 1985. And so was every other staff writer in television at the time. The juniors may have worked for as long as half a year on the show, all of it in a room with other writers, but they won't be part of the casting. They won't be meeting the director, yada, yada, yada. I get it. They're not going to be, they don't have the type of opportunities that were afforded to you in your, time, early days in television, your early experiences. I get it. So let's see. So one more thing about mini rooms. He says mini rooms are abominations. A little value judgment there from George. Mini rooms are abominations, and the refusal of the AMPTP to pay writers to stay with their shows through production as part of the job for which they need to be paid, not as a tourist, is not only wrong, it is incredibly short-sighted. if the story editors of 2023 are not allowed to get any production experience, where do the studios think the showrunners of 2033 are going to come from? If nothing else, the WGA needs to win that on that issue, no matter how long it may take. I mean, just getting paid to be a hang-around, though, you know, I can see like having an active role, but getting paid to just be a fucking hang-around, you know, and get in the way when your job ultimately is done. Like if that's your job, you're the script. You do the script. Okay, maybe get rid of the mini rooms. All right. You want them to be involved. Just bring back the overall writer's room where all the writers that are involved in the project congregate and have a say on the production. Yeah, I could see that. But Hollywood is Hollywood. Hollywood's going to do what Hollywood does. It has always done. It's the bottom line now. Well, maybe not always have done, but in recent years, it's all about the bottom line now because these productions are huge investments. Which is why, you know, the rise of the indie scene may bring just that. You don't have to copy the Hollywood blueprint because there's no time constraints. If you're creating a project like an indie film or something like that, and you want to involve everybody who's involved in the project, you know, you're going to have to negotiate. You're going to have to learn how to negotiate things. You know, there'll most likely be contracts involved for a production of that size. But, you know, everybody should know their role. Everybody should know their role. And you guys can hash it out however you want. You know, this Hollywood crap, this just sounds like George has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, you know, maybe a little bit jaded from the, you know, the Game of Thrones debacle, television debacle. And, you know, that might be weighing on his soul a little bit. And now he's just kind of tossing out words like rights, you know, as if people are entitled to things. And that's kind of what I'm getting out of it. You know, the WGA, you know, I don't know, whatever you guys think about associations. See what Rayner says. Rachel says, you got to fight for your right. And then later adds to party. All right. You don't have, yeah, Rayner said, kind of agrees on that one. You don't have the right to collaboration from others. It's just asinine. Yeah, people, is a matter of choice. You know, if it's a private company, but there's the association. The association, they're kind of like hijacking the talent, if you will, or holding the talent. I'd say it's more akin to, I think, unions, associations. It's kind of like holding the talent hostage. Maybe even against their will. Like maybe the talent feels a certain type of way about it, and they don't really feel one way or the other, and they might not even have an opinion about it, you know, but they got to do, they're, you know, they're paying dues. They got to do what their union leaders tell them to do, which is why I'm more of an individualist. I like the indie scene. I like individuals thinking for themselves, you know, making their own moves. I understand that maybe there's pros and there's cons to this thing. Maybe you guys bring that up on your own time, if there's any pros and cons to being affiliated with associations or unions. We'll talk about it during a different hot topic. Oops. So Rayner says there's a difference in Hollywood. You have a ton of unnecessary people on payroll if you have a big project. And that's just it. You know what I mean? I sympathize with from the business standpoint on that. I wouldn't want that. You're paying, you people turn around. Any indie that would say that they're with the WGA on that, I would turn around and ask them, okay, you're producing a project. You're producing an indie film. You're an indie film producer. That's your role. You have approached a writer. Here's a scenario, an indie scenario. You are an indie film producer. That's your job. You are going to make something happen. You are the mover and the shaker, the main man behind the project that's putting all the pieces together of this puzzle of how to make this picture a reality. Now, what you got to do is there's a lot of moving parts. You approached an author. Say it's an indie author. Just keep it in the family, so to speak. And I use that term loosely. So you approach an indie author and you say, hey, man, I really like your story. I like your novel here. I'd like to get it adapted into a movie. You sign on that author. So now you got to negotiate a contract with the author. Now the author is not a screenwriter. Okay. Now you got to go hire a screenwriter. Are you going to put the screenwriter on payroll, or are you just going to hire a screenwriter? You're going to commission a screenwriter as a gig, an individual one-time gig to adapt the story into a screenplay. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's like an example. Like, how many of you indie producers out there are going to want hang-arounds on payroll? Yeah, sure, there might be benefits to payroll where maybe it's like you're paying them hourly opposed to maybe a lump sum, an advance. But I feel like there's probably going to be more producers that would say, yeah, just 1099 his ass and make it simple, keep it simple. You're not going to be, you don't want to have the more contracts. I'll put it like this. The more contracts that you have floating around just means increased risk and liability for the production as a whole. And you want to limit risk. You want to limit liability. And that's just business, passion project aside, because people can come together and create indie film and you don't even have to have contracts involved. But I'm just talking about it. If you're going about it on a professional level, though, and you're dealing with strangers, but you're just doing it on a professional level to create a professional level production, and you're financing that out of your own pocket, you want it cost to be as low as possible, So any indie out there that says that, yeah, I'm on the side of the WGA, I'd have to kind of look at that with a bit of a grain of salt, a little bit of, I don't know, skepticism. Let's just put it that way. Be like, yeah, well, put yourself in their shoes, okay? Is that what you're going to do? Because people are always, because that's the thing. People are always so generous, right? When it comes to other people's money, right? So long as it's other people's money, you should do this. You should do that. Should they? You ever notice that? People are very generous when it comes to other people's money. But when it's their money that's involved, suddenly it's an issue. We got to think about these things. Let's break it down a little bit. Do we need this in there? Can we go with the cheap material for the costumes? Is that an option? Can the actors just wear slices of cheese? Can we do that? Government cheese, actually, not even the good stuff. Now that's a cheesy costume. That's what I call a cheesy costume. A little bit of a chip. Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, that's what I think. And he's naming names. He's going out of his way to name names too. You see what I'm saying? Almost as if he's he's recognizing where he came from. You know what I mean? It's almost like saying an embedded little kind of like a thank you within his blog post. Like he hasn't forgotten his roots. He knows he's recognizing the individuals that kind of, you know, gave him a leg up in the industry. And that's what I'm saying. Like that's a privilege that's not afforded to everybody. Now, I'm not coming at it from the standpoint of like, well, that's unfair. And nah, 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 nah. I don't know how he made those relationships. Maybe he was out there, you know, rubbing elbows, you know, working the scene, you know what I mean? Making himself seen, going out and about, attending parties, making connections. You don't know what goes on behind the scenes. Maybe he's, you know, participating in those Illuminati parties. You know, I don't know. You know, some eyes wide shut type of shit. You know, those shit, I've heard those parties get kind of crazy. You got to do some weird shit. They get blackmail on you. You know, maybe he paid his dues, you know, behind the scenes as far as that goes. And that's why he was afforded that type of privilege. Is that something you're willing to do? Let me know in the comments. You're going to join it? You're going to attend the Illuminati party? Get some blackmail on your ass in order to, you know, make it in the biz? Is that something you're willing to do? You willing to, you know, you willing to dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? All right. Yeah, interested to hear what you guys have to say. What's your reaction to that article? You got any comments for, you know, for me in regard to George's take there? What do you think? Has it kind of opened your eyes up a little bit to the industry itself and kind of get insider's look on how things work, how things used to be, how they are today? What's your opinion on the WGA? Let me know. All right, we're finally made it to the wrap up. We got a little something special for y'all tonight. But before I get into the wrap up, before we wrap up this show tonight, let me get some theme music. Let me put on a little theme music for you guys tonight. And tonight, what are we going to do for the theme? I think given where we are, you know, what today is, it's Memorial Day. All right, we're going to pretend you're going to go to the local Legion, okay? We're going to belly up. What we're going to do tonight, we're going to belly up to the bar. Let's go ahead, belly up to the bar. I'm going to go ahead and belly up to the bar at the old speakeasy where I know everyone's name. That's what I want to do right now. Go for a sip. Jimmy! Pick me up one of them old fashions, how you like to do them up. Tommy! How you doing over there? Susie! Looking good, Tuts. We're at the old speakeasy, people. How's the audio? Not bad? Let me see what I got. I'm going to have to scroll all the way back to the begin here if it's still up. It is. We got a little special segment for y'all tonight. This is an exclusive segment for y'all tonight. Okay? I know I'm getting a little flashy with it, but hey, listen, that's all part of the show. All right? This is an exclusive segment just for this show. I'm doing it right now. And I'm going to call this, hold on, let me do up a banner. I'm going to create a banner right now. I just kind of skimmed it, you know, this, you know, whether or not this is appropriate, Rachel, I don't know, but I'm shooting from the hip here. I'm spitballing, and I'm going to call this Rachel Morley's War Stories. Okay. Episode 1. That's what we got for you guys tonight. Okay. Rachel Morley's War Stories, episode 1. This is an exclusive segment. Never before seen during the live stream. So let's check it out. So Rachel starts us off here. When a Ukrainian zookeeper was drafted during World War II, he enlisted 6 of his closest friends to join in the same regiment, showing up to boot camp with timber wolves in tow. His tried to remove them, only to have them growl and bare teeth. We have animal companions. After raising them from pups, the wolves would go into depression in his absence, prompting him to enlist them as they performed the same training through boot camp, keeping up competently and at times putting other recruits to shame for lack of stamina. They gained full regiment after sniffing out a Russian spy. Dun, dun, dun. Which they chased and cornered in the showers, holding him there until their alpha arrived. Uh-oh. The man was then promoted upon graduation from boot camp so that he could lead the wolves in what was UR Regiment 18. After so much harassment from the wild man and his wolves, urban legends sprang up, referring to him as an evil spirit who took the form of the beasts. This rumor was so prevalent that it scared the Russians from hiding out in the forests of eastern Ukraine. When they did catch the man they called an evil spirit, he threw his head back and howled, causing his captors to think he was mad, calling his regiment to him. Within minutes, howls were heard. Again, in numbers, prompting the Russian soldiers to believe he truly was a demon, and fled. But seeking vengeance for his capture and threat to his homeland, he charged on, leading his pack. 3 soldiers were killed, 11 more badly wounded, and taken as POW prisoners of war. Returning from one scouting mission, he counted 2 additional wolves following at a distance. The war had devastated the wildlife to the point that the orphaned females desperately followed the only thing that looked familiar to them. After earning their trust and assimilating them into the pack, he named them Joanne and Boyd after his CO, making it near impossible to refuse their enlistment. Tragedy struck when a landmine was triggered, killing Boyd and maiming 2 other wolves and their keeper. The remaining wolves then held off Russian soldiers as they tried to scout the area and would howl as they waited for help to arrive. After the war, 103 acres of eastern Ukrainian forests were set aside as a wildlife reserve where you can still, to this day, find a statue honoring the wolves and their alpha human. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Rachel's War Stories, Episode 1. I would subtitle that The Wolf Pack. And scene. Well, thanks for sharing that, Rachel. Is that based on a true story? Be interested to know. Cheers. Come on, intern. Prove your worth. You see what I did there? I'll suck them in. All right. Well, that's the show for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I had a blast, I have to say. Thank you guys who showed up. There you go. There you go. She's on strike, ladies and gentlemen. She's on strike. We're going to have to negotiate behind the scenes. That's the show for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I hope y'all had some fun. I hope y'all discovered something new. But don't fret, because guess what? I will be back here for you next week, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 6 p.m. Pacific. Have a good week.
This offended my sensibilities.